presenter is Dr. Joel Weidenberg. And Dr. Weidenberg is the Stanley D. and Nikki Roxburgh Chair for the School of Law. And he's also the founding academic director at the Center on Law and Information Policy. He received his PhD from Université de Paris. If my French sounds fine. In 2003, he is expert on information technology law and policy. Please welcome.
Thank you. I'm probably going to do it from here so I can play with the browser and show a couple things from CLIP. I'm joined today by Jamila Devilak, who is the executive director of CLIP. Jamila joined us, I think it will be 4 years in January. She had been an attorney in practice at the Deckert firm, which is one of the major national firms in the intellectual property group at Deckert. I unfortunately am going to have to leave in about 3 minutes to go to a salary and benefits committee meeting, which was called on rather short notice. So I'll start, and then I'll turn over to Jamila to talk a little bit more about some of the research and activities that we do. CLIP as a center, much of the research I do as a faculty member, I'm now doing through the center in the context of the center. We started CLIP 6 years ago to, at the law school, try to focus a variety of things that we were doing on the ways in which we regulate information flows in society. So when we think about the kinds of rule sets that affect flows of information, we get involved in intellectual property, privacy, which is an area that my own scholarship has been very focused in. Regulation of technology itself, what are the modalities of regulating technology? Telecommunications law, you may have heard of the net neutrality debate that's been in the news over the last year or so. So these are the sorts of things, the rule sets that are affecting how information flows on a network, how we put value, put a legal framework around information so that it gives it value and helps promote knowledge creation. That's essentially our broad mission, our frame of reference. In that context, we have a whole variety of activities that span from basic core research, which we'll talk about, and then other activities that are research related. So the first couple, we run a pretty active events program, which is actually why we were late this morning. We had we do a monthly roundtable, bringing in a series of outside experts. We include a group of students at these sessions, and they're topical discussions. So last week in Mexico, the data privacy commissions from around the world met. They meet once a year. And we did a debriefing of the conference. I was there as a speaker, and we have one of the other speakers who's here in New York join us this morning to do a session focused on what they're doing. And that's the sort of thing we do with our roundtable events. We do conferences. We have a big annual conference. Our conference this year is entitled Big Data, Big Issues. It will be March 2nd, so we encourage you to come. We're looking at things from how we innovate, how big data is innovative, how it implicates privacy, how it implicates a whole host of other issues. We run,
is that free for portal faculty?
Yes, it is. You'll have to let us know because this year, usually it's free except if you want CLE credit. Our experience last year, we had an oversubscription, we had a problem in the space, so we're going to have a modest registration fee to assure that we get people there, but for Fordham faculty, that we will take care of. We run faculty workshops, so we have 2 upcoming in the spring semester. We have Chaim Balganash from the University of Pennsylvania, who's going to be addressing work he's doing in copyright, and then Susan Landau, who's a computer scientist, will be coming in April to talk about a book she's working on privacy. We do book talks. We just had one last week. Jason Mazzone came to speak about his book that was released just a couple days before his talk. It was a Stanford University Press book. And then we do a wonderful little thing called Clippings, which is a neat little newsletter once a week. This is run through a student team that we have puts this together. gives you some interesting stories in the last week with a very short clipping in areas like intellectual property, information security and cyber threats, privacy, internet governance, free expression and censorship, and then the one that they always have fun with is on the lighter side. There's always some sort of joke thing. In terms of our core research program, actually I may get through the whole thing. We do, each year, we run a research project with a team of students. We've done the projects, IP, privacy have been our past. I'm going to flag two of them. The Privacy in Children's Educational Records study was an analysis of all 50 states, how the states were building longitudinal databases of educational records of children, and the lack of privacy protection for it. So we went and dug into the data manuals to see what the data fields were they were collecting, how the systems were architected, to see what protections they were putting on the security side as well as the authenticated access and use problems. And we wrote this up as a report. It was stimulated a lot of interest. Congress held hearings on the privacy implications of No Child Left Behind renewal, where I was invited to testify, and our report was actually introduced as part of the congressional record on the NCLB renewal last spring. We did a report more recently this past summer for the World Intellectual Property Organization. It was an analysis of the literature in IP and barriers to entry for developing countries. Jamal and I were invited to WIPO headquarters in Geneva to do a presentation to the country delegates. WIPO is an international agency under the UN auspices that was established by a multilateral treaty. And they are basically the oversight body and a think tank group for various international IP rulemaking mechanisms. We're likely to be continuing doing follow-up work with WIPO from this survey that we did last year. Our current project this year is on cybersecurity. We're looking at, and we're working with, we're doing it as a workshop with a group of students as a class, co-teaching the course, and we're having the students at the moment put together a series of white papers, background papers for a conference that we'll organize next spring on cybersecurity threats and risks for economic interests. So we're not focusing on the cyber warfare stuff, we're focusing really on the economic espionage side, the hacker side, and the kinds of problems it poses for companies. And our white paper teams are looking at internal issues that companies face in dealing with the problems that range from legal to policy to practical, between companies, how companies deal with it. And then thirdly, the government. You know, the government has divisions that are designed to help. No one understands what they do or where they fit in. So we're trying to map that out. And then it'll culminate in a workshop, much like we did when we started CLIP, which was, I think, the last research project, the Binding Corporate Rules project. And we also, I guess we should just sort of, there aren't quite enough to go around, maybe just send them around.
Oh, we are.
Oh, okay. Oh, wonderful, so you know who we are. Okay, great, thank you all.
Thank you. Does anyone need more of the handout? Does anyone have one? So I'm going to pass it around. Thank you. And then John, or Professor Fatima pass it?
I'll do it, okay.
You do it? Anyway, so our faculty, information system faculty is very useful, right? They can use a computer. So that's good. So our next presenter is Dr. Evangelos Katalakas.
Yeah, just a moment. Fleur's going to leave now, so she'll say a few things.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then...
Just wanted to mention that with the IT department, I'm bringing a message from them that we are really delighted to be able to participate in these various groups that have started taking a lot of initiatives in using technology, and we have the full support of the IT department. And our goal is to basically make sure that you succeed in what you want to do. So that was the message that I had for you. We have a few examples of successful programs that we started in collaborating with the academic side of the house, and one of them is our online program development. We have master's degrees in School of Religious Studies, master's degrees in the School of Social Service, and just an example of how our collaboration works. And so we are very enthusiastic, we are very interested, and we are here to support you. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please. Sorry I have to run, but please send me your emails and questions.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you.
And then we have two more presenters to go, Dr. Katamakas and then Raghupati, and lunch is here.
Yeah, maybe,
We can have lunch.
yeah,
and
you
then-
can have lunch in parallel, I guess.
And then while he's getting ready. maybe
Because
we can
I'm
go grab
associate
lunch.
director and RP is the director, so we are
It's all a family.
the hosts basically. So feel free to get some lunch while I will, and I will start talking in 2 minutes.
It's already ready, right?
Yeah.
So we grab something to that.
The people, I'll eat after I finish.
Then I will enter in 2 minutes, but we can
Yeah.
Well, he said he had to leave at X number of minutes, and I didn't know if that was a drive back down.
I want you to have it saying this for like 8 years.
So like unique.
Hello everyone. Hello everyone. Enjoying lunch? Okay, so we are going to convene our workshop with the next presenter, Dr. Evangelos Katsamakas. I can never learn how to pronounce his
Yes.
last name. And Dr. Evan, I will call Dr. Evan, yes.
You don't
is-
need to have doctor.
He's associate professor in information systems, and then he did his PhD at Stern in NYU, and also MBA in what? MBA in what?
Masters in London, right?
Yeah.
LSE.
Yeah, LSE, London School of Business. And he has many active research projects, but mostly in open source programming. And what else would you want to add?
I'll talk about it.
All right, he's a good friend of mine. So. All right, so let's get started.
Okay, so this is working. So it's nice being here, and I was really excited about all these presentations we saw so far. And we're just talking with our students there that these are very interesting things that we all would like to learn more about. And looks like the whole university could be one department, right? You know, all of us like interested in different aspects of digital, and everything is becoming digital now. And that's why also the name of the center, of which I'm also associate director, is very topical, right? Everything is about digital transformation and how to understand how this digital transformation works, how to understand its impact, and how basically to manage it, right? How to regulate it within organizations or within societies. So in general, my research program is about the economic and strategic effects of technology. So I use lots of economics, both methodologies. In terms of economic methodology, we mean analytical modeling, like creating analytical models, or econometrics, so basically collecting data and analyzing data, like testing hypotheses. And at the same time, use a lot of economic theory to understand different phenomena, okay? So what was interesting, like from the different presentations we saw, is that, and also has implications for interdisciplinary research, is that one specific phenomenon, different people can study it from different viewpoints. Somebody can see the psychological perspective, other person can see the sociological perspective, other person can see the economic perspective and the strategic perspective. Okay, and I will come back to that in a moment. Jan, stop me if I speak too much, like in 10 minutes, okay? Because sometimes I extend to different directions. In general, my research, so this is basically the research methodology and the approach, economic and strategic impact of IT. But what are the topics I'm interested in and I'm studying? So the topics, if you like, are about 3 concepts. And I have been doing this work since the beginning of last decade, like since 2000. So basically 3 main concepts. The one concept is the concept of networks. Okay, so today everything is about networks, and we heard about like the different speakers mentioned this word many times. So it's networks connecting people with people, it's networks connecting people with companies, it's networks connecting people with other organizations, it's networks of companies, it's networks of countries if you like. Okay, everything is about networks. So there's a big kind of, why this happened? This happened, the big transformation was the internet. So the internet transformed the world from the personal computer, which is basically you have individuals doing individual things, to everything being interconnected, okay? And this sped up the process. So everything today is about networks. And of course there are many people studying networks. I have been looking at this phenomenon since like around 2000. Basically, the main directions are to understand network formation, so how networks are created, how networks work, what is the behavior of people within networks, or the behavior of companies within networks, and what is the impact, like what is the strategic or impact for society, okay? And the other main concept is the concept of open, like open source, open innovation. If you like, what happened when the internet was created, besides connecting everything, it created also a platform to have open activities, like volunteer participation, like also Jan mentioned, like Wikipedia. But what is interesting is that this started from the software, from the software community. Okay, the first important revolution in terms of open innovation was open source software development. Like basically the hackers and the geeks showed us that there is a new model of innovation, a new model of organization, that basically things are open and you can have volunteer participation, you can have platforms for participation, you can have self-organization, you can have people selecting what they want to do instead of somebody telling them what to do. You can have a new model of managing communities, like what Linus Torvalds did with the Linux operating system. These ideas that started from open source software development are spreading since then slowly to all areas of human activity. Like, for example, Wikipedia, which is using the similar ideas to create an encyclopedia, right? Or open government, open science. You can think of virtually everything becoming open today, okay? So open source software development and its impact, I have done work on that, like the creation of Linux and how it competes with commercial platforms that are available out there, like Windows, okay? So how the competition works. This has been a major publication of mine. Also, we've done some work on open source projects in health IT, like with with RP as well. So basically, 2 or 3 papers we studied how these open source projects succeed and how they fail, why people contribute to these open source projects. And you have different factors there that play a role there, like licenses and other issues that play a role whether a health IT open source project is successful or it fails, and how long it lasts. I've done some other work on the dynamics of open source participation, like simulation models of how people participate in open source development, and again, what are the factors that affect the success of this open source development. Like, for example, one major factor is modularity. If you break down a project into different modules, into different smaller components, then this helps people focus on one aspect of the project and contribute on this one aspect of the project, and helps make the project more successful. Okay? Another aspect of this research stream was adoption, why companies adopt open source software, and some major issues there is that when you adopt open source software, you can customize it and make it work better for your company. And finally, some other work looking at open source software from the perspective of disruptive innovation. Under what conditions these open source business models and open innovation more generally can be a disruptive innovation. So basically disrupting a particular market and having basically transforming the whole market, how it works. So in general, along this stream, I'm more interested now on how to extend these ideas about open into other areas. Like even we are doing some work now about open democracy, how to motivate participation in democratic institutions to make decisions more participatory, okay? So, and basically there are similar issues across all these different applications of open and open innovation. Okay, I will use that. Okay, the other major stream is about networks and platforms. I did some work on internet platforms and ownership and design. Like you have different platforms there, like Google, like Facebook. How the ownership of this platform works and how you design the platform is important for the competitive implications for the market. So basically, this is lots of work that has been going on in economics about networks and platforms. And kind of I presented my first paper on platforms in 2002 in WISE workshop. And actually this concept of platforms now has become mainstream. Everywhere you read about platforms, okay? So again, it was kind of early work on these kind of issues that now are becoming mainstream. We published a paper last year about ebook platforms. You have Kindle and you have Nook, these new platforms, how they affect the book market, okay? So you have ebooks competing with physical books and what people will choose and under what conditions and how you make your platform very successful. And finally, about network competition and merchants versus platforms. These are kind of more kind of recent topics I'm studying. So basically, network competition is the idea that today, instead of seeing competition between individual companies, you see competition across between group of companies, between networks, basically, between ecosystems. Like you can think of it like I don't know, Facebook having an ecosystem, which is Facebook and the applications competing another ecosystem, which is kind of a platform and the applications. Or you can think of it similarly for mobile technologies, like iPhone is an ecosystem with its applications versus Android, which is another ecosystem with its applications. So basically how competition then works. And finally, the third stream is about complexity, like how you get ideas from complex systems and dynamic complexity, which is basically complex systems is kind of an interdisciplinary science, like many people like from biologists, physicists are interested in these issues. So how to use these ideas from complex systems to understand information systems and what is the impact in companies. And we did a special issue about that, published in System Dynamics Review, which is a major journal in the area, which was the first special issue on IS and complexity and dynamics that has been published. So basically this is an overview of kind of the three major themes I'm studying, and basically I'm still active in all these three, like work on open and how in new applications, work on networks and new applications of networks, and finally work on complexity and complex systems and how we can use these ideas from biology and physics and other areas to understand the impact of technology. Okay? So I will stop here for now.
Are there any questions for Evan?
I guess we can continue after the...
Yeah, after the...
And RP is the last.
Great, thank you so much. Our next presenter is the next and the last presenter. John, can you open up the slide, please? Our next and the last presenter is the director of the center, Dr. R.P. And R.P. is professor of information systems in the School of Business and adjunct professor in law school. And he received his LLM in intellectual property in information technology management, magna cum laude from Fordham University School of Law. So he has a degree in law as well as PhD in information systems. And yes, so please welcome Dr. R.P.
Thank you. Yeah, it's all upper middle-aged blues. You know, very insecure, so I had to go and get another degree to feel good about it. Thank you so much. I'm going to be brief. I'm talking about sustainability, but I probably chopped a few branches to make copies of these articles. Not just for this conference, I saved them from another presentation. I think we can take this off, Jan, because I'm going to talk from my paper. No, I don't want people looking at this.
It's a nice one. It's a nice picture.
Okay.
Advertising.
Yeah, okay. So I have two research themes. One is healthcare, information technology in healthcare, and then the other one that started recently is the role of technology in enabling sustainability, by whatever name we call that sustainability, green computing, reducing carbon emissions. So under the larger definition of the sustainability, and I'll kind of get into that in a minute. This is where I see some potential for interdisciplinary work. Did you mention Dean, is it Dean Latham? Latham, yeah. So, you know, he and Dean Rapichelli put together the minor in sustainable business last year. That's taken off. I think they started offering it from this fall, and I can see the curriculum and the research all kind of coming together, as well as hopefully some grant work as well. So I thought, let me present that for a few minutes today. Also, next spring, we are working on a symposium in sustainable cities. So, you know, Fordham has done quite a bit in that, and I'm putting together an initial proposal to